Hello and welcome back to One in the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. He's Patches Kaplan. We are happy to be back. 2025 college football season. How are we feeling, Patch?
Johnny, I just got the chills when you were
Yes.
saying One in the Trenches podcast. Enjoy it while it lasts, everyone. That name is short-lived. We will be changing very, very soon. I'm excited. Johnny's excited.
Yes.
We are going to go from more of a podcast to a show. We're going to have graphics, infomercials, not infomercials, but different types of things like
Trying
that.
to up the game, season 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and soon enough, you and I will be on College Game Day.
Just like Dave Portnoy getting on Fox, he'll be up there.
That's a really interesting pick, and I'm happy for him. Will it get me to watch noon kickoff? Absolutely not.
I just hate big noon kickoff. Just being a Big Ten guy, like I hate it. You know, like the biggest game of the week at noon. It just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I know you hate it as much. I think a good noon game goes a long way, especially when you have a good noon game and then you have like a good 4:30 game, a good 6:30 game.
Starts the day.
I think that they need to spread the wealth a little bit, but I am with you. I think certain games belong at 12, certain games do not. The whiteout does not belong at 12.
Exactly. Or games the horseshoe.
Going to the whiteout this year, Johnny?
Going to the whiteout this year. Very excited. Oregon, Penn State, week 5, I think, with a bye. But should be a great matchup. Both teams don't have a crazy tough schedule leading up to that game, so they both should be undefeated. Should be a top 10, possibly top 5 matchup. It's going to be exciting.
That's a crazy game. Speaking of your Nittany Lions, they got a tough schedule this year. We'll dive more into that in a little bit. Johnny, how are you feeling coming off last year? You know, obviously you came up short. It was a tough game.
Both came up short. Both came
Where
up
would you have rather come up short to? Wait, Notre Dame had probably one of the most – hold on. Notre Dame probably had one of the most legendary plays they've had in my lifetime against your Nittany Lions. And I can't even say it with a straight face. That's how good it felt.
What play?
Jeremiah Love's 1-yard run where he just bulldozed.
Okay, it can't be legend. It's 1 yard run. Okay, just you set it up. 1 yard run right there. All I have to say is one fan base gets to be happy every year. Both of us were unhappy. We were both big Will Howard.
Not me.
You were happy?
I was very happy. Very happy.
Yeah, you know what?
You're telling me when I called you in when I called you in the Walmart parking lot after they lost to Northern Illinois, you're telling me that I'm not happy with that season, how it turned out? Incredibly happy.
That's loser talk. Loser talk. You aim for the mountaintop. You aim for the mountaintop.
Has Penn State won in your lifetime? So you're saying in all 27 years of your life, you've never been happy with college football?
You know, I'm happy every week with college football, but I'm talking about we're all aiming for the mountaintop. But put that all aside. Let's get into the top 25 for this season.
So, Johnny, we have, you know, as always, the top 25, we're going to start at 25 and kind of move our way down.
Of the AP poll, to be exact.
The AP poll, of course. That's the one we like. That's the one that we criticize. If they asked me to be a part of the AP poll, I would probably tell them no because I think they're a bunch of scam artists.
Yes.
You know, a lot of the AP poll is how did you finish last year? Is your quarterback returning? And how's your offense going to be? Is your head coach returning? You know, I think 25 to 20 is a crapshoot a little bit.
Absolutely. I don't know how you pick
like that every year.
Yeah, 100%.
I think no matter what the poll is, 20 to 25, even 20 to 30, are a bit of a popularity contest. I think the AP poll the first week is a little bit different, but moving forward, I think it's, you know, who played the best game. You know, let's say Mizzou upsets Ole Miss. Mizzou will now be in the top 25, which you and I have talked about in extensive detail about how BS that is. But I'm going to read you 25 to 20. I want you to tell me what you think about it. You know, how are you feeling? You know, do you agree? So 25, we have Boise State. 24, we have Tennessee. 23, Texas Tech. 22, Iowa State. 21, Ole Miss. And 20, Indiana.
Yeah, I think all those teams deserve to have their name read in the top 25. You know, well, I guess we can start at 25, Boise. I really like Maddox Madsen. I think he played great. You know, played pretty well against Penn State. It wasn't necessarily a close game, but I think he's like a good, intelligent quarterback. I think they'll be pretty good this year. I think they have a shot to win the Mountain West and get back into playoff. Tennessee's kind of a crap.
You really think that they can beat UNLV? So, like, that's kind of what I agree with. Like, this is a little bit of a quarterback and popularity contest. Like, you get
it depends.
UNLV, who played them twice very, very strong, and I haven't even scrolled up yet, and I can all but guarantee UNLV is not on this list. They have done outside recruiting in terms of the transfer portal. I think it's a little bit of a shame to leave them out.
I don't know how much
Maybe not
faith do
leave
you
them
have.
out, but like I can't write them off, I guess.
How much faith do you have in Alex Orji? Because he's the quarterback for UNLV this year. Freak
I have faith
athlete.
in Dan Mullen a little bit.
Yeah, I like Dan Mullen.
I think
Dan
in the
Mullen.
right situation, Alex Orji could be a decent quarterback. Get him a really good, Michigan had never had good wide receivers, and they were probably making him do a little bit much. But if you only make him throw the ball 20 times a game, I bet he could complete 12 or 13 of them, which sounds super low. But if you get 125 yards on the ground and it opens up your run game with your running backs, it'd be hard for me to deny that he won't be the starter week 1.
Yeah, no, we'll see what Alex Orji has in the tank. But I think Boise definitely brought a lot of talent back from that playoff team last year. We'll see. I want to ask you about Tennessee, because Tennessee, I really don't know where they're even going to land this year. They got Joey Aguilar late in the transfer portal after Nico left. That was a whole shit show. But I don't know. I believe in Josh Heupel. I think he's a good coach. I think they've got talent. I think they also have to go through a gauntlet. So I think they're very, kind of in this gray area. They could win a couple of games, couple of kicks go their way. They're like a playoff team, or the other end of that, a couple of kicks don't go their way. They might not even have a winning record,
It's really, really tough to say, Johnny, because, I keep seeing this whole Oklahoma's schedule is so hard. Florida's schedule is so hard. Tennessee's schedule is so hard. But eventually you just have to say, everyone's schedule is going to be hard in the SEC, which is given. And then the Big 12 is the other one that they're all going to kind of eat themselves apart. So can you win the games that matter the most and not lose the ones that you're not expected to lose? So can you win the ones that you are a coin toss, and can you not lose the ones that you're supposed to lose? And Tennessee is interesting because we've seen teams that lose by one possession scores, how good of a team they are and how they just don't pan out. USC last year, I think, lost 5 games by either one possession or they had the lead in the fourth quarter.
Good team.
Iowa lost 3 games by one possession last year. And no one's even talking about how good either of those teams are. So this could be a Tennessee team that's very, very talented, but is not going to get it done in the wins and losses columns. And this is probably one of the reasons the 12-team playoffs is such a great equalizer. But I'm with you. I think that they're not going to return the talent they have on defense, excuse me. And I just don't think that their offense is going to be as explosive at times. I'm hoping they get a little bit of experience, but it's going to be a weird one. Make or break, I guess, in a way.
22-23, I think these two teams are in a similar boat, Texas Tech, Iowa State. I think both these teams have a ton of talent, got a lot better in the transfer portal. And I think both these teams could vie for the Big 12 title this year. I'm really high on Texas Tech. I'll talk about them a little later. I know you're really high in Iowa State. I think these teams are both in a pretty similar situation, like 22-23. They could 100% advance up the rankings, or they could drop a couple in drop. But I really like both these teams going into the season.
There's got to be something that I see in Iowa State that others don't, because I don't see how they're not a top 15 team. Bringing back their third-year starter, bringing back, I think, like 18 out of 22 starters on offense and defense. They lose their 2 wide receivers and their running back, but they got just as good a talent. I was going to say, in the portal. They got some really, really good talent in the portal. I think it's Rocco Becht is returning.
Rocco Becht's quarterback.
Yeah, he's a really talented guy. He awesome. Speaks highly of the new transfers. Their schedule's in their favor. I think that they should be a front runner for the Big 12 and to make their first college football experience. They won 11 games last year. I just don't understand. Their over under for wins is like 8.5 or 9.
I think, just to play devil's advocate, you talked with those 2 receivers, Noel and Higgins. They lost. Both got drafted by the Texans. They both had 1K receiving yards last year. I think it's just really hard for people going into the next season. Like, you're taking away 2,000 yards, like those guys were such high production players that I think people are just kind of weary. Not writing Iowa State off, but just wary, like, where are they going to find that production? I know they got better in the
Johnny, I would tread lightly if I was you using this.
Wait, what? No, I wouldn't, because I know who you're talking about. Those 2 guys
I'm just saying.
Those two guys are proven, though. Both those guys were 900 plus receivers for Penn State. Trevor Pena, one of the best receivers in the ACC last year. Probably a very explosive Syracuse offense that you loved talking about last year. We'll get into that later. So
Yeah, I
let's
think that
go.
their offense was it was a combination of a lot of things. Really talented quarterback play, subpar schedule, but we'll get into that. We have Ole Miss and Indiana. Ole Miss was substantially lower than I thought. I thought they had the number one transfer portal recruiting class of 2025. I thought that would have put them in the top 10, even top 13. To see them down at 21 is a bit of a surprise. Lane Kiffin's a great coach.
Yeah.
There was at points last year where we thought he was going to be the number one coaching recruit for any major program if they moved on. So, if Brian Kelly moved on, we thought Lane Kiffin was going to be the next big one. If they moved on from Lincoln Riley, we thought he might get the call. So I'm a bit surprised by 21. I can almost promise you they will not end at 21. I'm assuming their schedule is just not in their favor. I think they have a
it's
really tough
gauntlet.
road schedule. Probably play Georgia, Florida again, Texas. But very, very surprised to see 21. The AP poll in the week 0 has nothing to do with their schedule. It's just preseason rankings. So I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah, I think just like it's going to be a theme that we talk about a lot today. Just like Austin Simmons stepping up at quarterback for them. Can he do what Jackson Dart did? Probably not the level because Jackson Dart was a couple years starter, was a great guy, great player for Ole Miss. So I just think that's a common theme this year. Will a young quarterback step up? And I think that's probably the biggest thing that's keeping Ole Miss back right now in the rankings.
Yeah, gotta eliminate the turnovers. Jackson Dart had a lot of them early on in his career with a complicated offense. He had that game where I think he had 6 interceptions against Mizzou or something like that. It was ugly. 20 Indiana, no surprise there. Indiana is definitely going to drop a little bit, but as we know, Coach Signetti, he is a winner. He's an FCS guy. The whole Google Me thing, all jokes aside, he's batting at like
great
I
coach.
think 100 in terms of wins and losses. He's like 136, 35. He has a great record in college football as a head coach. So there's no surprise there that he definitely outperformed what we expected last year, but they hit the transfer portal really well. They knew exactly what they were getting, I think, out of Curtis O'Rourke, the quarterback that they're bringing in from Cal. Probably will be almost identical with that RPO.
Mendoza.
They ran that single back RPO like it was their job last year, and it was very, very effective. Got to develop some offensive line talent, and I think that they can have another good year. They definitely have a harder schedule than they do this year. But, Johnny, what do you think about what they've done in terms of their out-of-conference play over the next 4 years?
I don't know. They're trying to – Signetti's talked a lot about adopting like an SEC mindset where we're going to play one. Sometimes SEC teams will play 2 FCS teams in a year just to give themselves kind of an extra bye, as they call it. But I think the main reason he's doing it is because he has to go into Autzen Stadium, play Oregon, and go into Happy Valley and play Penn State this year, and then host Ohio State at home. So I think they avoid Ohio State this year, my bad. Yep. But I think that is kind of in the back of his head. They also got to play 2 tough games against Illinois and Iowa. So I think that their conference schedule this year got dramatically harder than the conference schedule you saw last year. They really only had to play Ohio State last year. So I think they're really, really trying to focus on that Big Ten schedule. I don't like it. I feel like if you schedule the game, you should play it. Paying a team off to get them off, I think, is kind of a scared move, especially when it's Virginia. Right, it was UVA, and I don't think anyone's expecting UVA to be tremendous this year or even like compete for the ACC. So I don't know. I think this close to the season, it was kind of a bad look. But
certainly a bad look. But I think what he's thinking in his head is that you have realistically 3 teams that are a carousel of locks in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. And then you have these, and I'm just talking the last like 2 years, right? Michigan's on a down, but we'll talk about them in just a few minutes. But you have like 3 teams from the Big Ten are automatically in. And when you're evaluating that 4th team that's likely to get in, because we're talking, there's most likely going to be 4 out of the Big Ten or 4 out of the SEC, 3 in the other, 2 out of the ACC in the Big 12, Notre Dame, and then a group of 5. And he's probably thinking in his head, they're not going to count this win towards any kind of strength of schedule. They will to some degree, but they're not going to praise Indiana for winning these games. So might as well pick a team that you're not going to have any slippage against.
Yeah, I just think this close to the season, just a really bad look. I'm kind of down on Indiana this year. I think the talent gap is is pretty big compared to them with the top end Big Ten talent this year. I think there's a lot of teams that got better in the offseason in the Big Ten. I don't think Indiana got as good as people think they did. So I think it's going to be kind of a tough year for them just because the schedule got so much harder.
Yeah.
You want to move on?
I go back and forth. I agree with you. I think that they are rightfully ranked, but I go back and forth on if I think what they did was cowardly or not. It depends on the day on how I feel, but sometimes I think it is, sometimes I think it isn't. But nonetheless, 19 through 15, Johnny, or 19 through 16, excuse me, we have Texas A&M. Obviously, Mike Elko's second year there, looking to grow. Tough early September season, but we'll talk about that. Oklahoma at 18, K-State, Coach Kleiman getting the boys ready at 17. 16, we have SMU.
Where do you want to start? Just Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. I think they got to make big steps. People are been extremely patient over the last 10 years, and it's time to get paid off a little bit. He did a really, really good job recruiting in the transfer portal this year. Obviously, has infinite amounts of funds, nothing like Texas Tech, but I think A&M is going to be rolling. Really, really tough September. I'm going to look up their schedule. I do know it is tough. I'm drawing a blank on who they have exactly.
I got it up right now. They start the season. September for them is Utah State, Notre Dame, Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida. But then it just gets harder from there because then they got LSU and South Carolina and Texas to end the season. So I think this is a very talented team. I think the SEC has a lot of great teams, but not everyone can be good in one season. I think they're going to kind of cannibalize the conference this year.
Yeah, I think that Texas A&M and Oklahoma are in the exact same boats, and we can even say that about I'm not going to bring them up yet, but our friends down in Gainesville are going to be in the same place. They can be a great team in a different year. In an Indiana 2024, this team could probably be a 10-win team, but in all reality, it's probably won't happen. Going to South Bend on the road, week 2, tough. Auburn, not an easy game. Follow that up, in November, the hardest month of football, as Coach Mack used to always say. You obviously have LSU.
In Texas. Yeah, that's a brutal schedule. Going to Oklahoma, I do really like them bringing in John Metier. I think he's a great
even after what you saw today.
What happened today?
Oh, you didn't see it yet? His Venmo got leaked. And there's a couple of transactions from like 2 years ago of him sports gambling.
2 years ago? Come on.
Johnny, we do not condone sports gambling.
Oh, we don't?
As a college athlete.
That's news to me.
We are has-beens, so we can now talk about it. But while an athlete, we do not condone that. You should know that.
No, I shouldn't, because I was a manager, not a player. It doesn't apply to me. Just kidding. I don't know. I got to double check that. But I don't know. If he's on the field, I think they have a good chance to score a lot of points. I think they're going to need to win shootouts. How do you feel about 17 K-State? You're a K-State believer every year, and I ride the train with you. And I just feel like it's always a sad end. I do like Avery Johnson. He's the
tall, physical, long-legged. He's good. I want to go back to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has to do one thing to have a better season. They got to protect the quarterback last year. Better than last year. They let up 50 sacks last year. You cannot win football games letting up 50 sacks in a season. That is god-awful. Moving to K-State, we've talked about it briefly because we've already had, 3 Big 12 teams in this list. Yeah. It's going to be a cannibalistic league, opening up with Iowa State as a 3-point favorite. Week 0, we'll talk about that next week, is a tough week 0 matchup. K-State does the same song and dance every year. How I got on to K-State is I obviously like North Dakota State coming from FCS. Let me rephrase. I liked watching Coach Kleiman at North Dakota State.
Yeah,
when he went to Kansas State, they upset Oklahoma and Jalen Hurts. Year 1, I was like, this guy is legit. He's going to take the steps. 2022 or 2023, they beat TCU and won the Big 12. It was awesome. They got smacked by Bama in the bowl game. Nonetheless, it was great to see. But every single year, they let me down to some degree in some format. I don't know if I can trust them enough not to drop 2 games. I think 2 games is all it takes to get out of the Big 12 picture. But my team this year in the Big 12 is Iowa State. I've said it before. I've said it again. I'm drinking that Matt Campbell Kool-Aid. I'm going to watch his locker room post-game speech to get myself fired up before bed tonight. I'm drinking his Kool-Aid. I think that Iowa State is the team to beat in the Big 12. But with that being said, I want to just come full circle. Texas Tech could be realistically 4 or 5-0 leaving
I
or
love
heading
Texas
into
Tech.
Columbus Day weekend.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would be crazy. Wouldn't want to see them that early. But K-State, I'm not buying stock into K-State. 16 SMU, full transparency. I don't really know that much about SMU. I didn't know much about them last year. I thought they played terrible in the playoff game. I could see why Lane Kiffin was tweeting at them. I just didn't think that was the right move.
I like SMU. I don't know if they're going to be that great this year, but I think Kevin Jennings is a great quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think they're really fun to watch. I think Rhett Lashley, the coach, has got them moving in the right direction. I think they surprised a lot of people in the ACC last year. They had a very close loss to BYU, but BYU was good last year. BYU was a very good team last year. And we'll see. They're not on the list right now. We'll see how they
BYU won what 6 out of the last 6 last year, and then beat was it Auburn in the bowl game?
Yeah. BYU was good. I like BYU.
Yeah. He got himself off the hot seat. Is it Dave Ariande?
No, that's Dave Miranda's at Baylor. It's
yes.
Excuse
me. That's what I'm speaking of. Went 6-0. Baylor is went 6-0. Could be a really good team as well.
BYU's Kalani Sitake.
Yes.
They're in a whole weird situation right now with the quarterback leave and everything. But going back to SMU, I think they're fun. I think they play entertaining football. Kind of a close game every time. You don't know where it's going to go. They played Clemson very close last year to lose the ACC, and just absolutely brutal bid playing in Happy Valley, freaking like 5 degrees.
Yeah,
Packed,
that was a cool
packed
day.
stadium. Yeah, there's Happy Valley's like 3 times the size of SMU Stadium, but I think they got a little better in the portal. I think Kevin Jennings is a very good quarterback. I don't think they're in contention for the ACC title, but I think they're going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, I don't know if the ACC race is very open at all.
No, I agree with that. Now going 15 to 11, Florida at 15, Michigan, South Carolina, Illinois, and ASU. I have to say, I think this group of 5 teams is really, really fun. You alluded to it earlier. I think Florida is a very talented team. I think DJ Lagway is a great quarterback. I just think the schedule is too hard this year. I think it's going to be a brutal stretch. They got to play all the Florida teams. I just don't see them surviving enough by the end of the season.
Yeah, no, Johnny, I think you're spot on. I think a really good season for them would be a 7-4. If we get to 8 wins, they'd be very, very happy. I think an 8-win team, a 4-loss team, they might even be in contention to be the 12th team. With how hard their road schedule is, it's something that should be considered because they are going to beat teams. They got to win those coin flips. If you remember last year, I picked Florida as my week 1 upset against Miami. I believed in them last year. I was ahead of the curve. Not trying to pat myself on the back. I was. And I do think that they're going to carry this on. They need to develop a run game. They need to continue growing on defense. But, I think Billy Napier is still coaching for his life to some degree because they're seeing the talent that they have offensively in with DJ Lagway. And they're not that far away from being a national contender where it would not surprise me whatsoever if he underdevelops DJ Lagway or underperforms this year that they go get a elite level coach.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Michigan? Because I'm pretty conflicted. I think they've got talent on the roster. I just think they're a year or 2 away from really competing in the Big Ten. I think they've got talent on that roster. I think Bryce Underwood will be a good quarterback. I just think they're a little too young across the board. I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh, no, I'm buying all in on Michigan. And I want to talk about one of my bets later on in the day, but I think that Michigan will be the 3rd team that is a lock for the playoffs coming out of the Big Ten. If you look at their schedule is incredibly easy. In their Ohio State game will be a guaranteed win in your in type game. They've got Ohio State's number. Obviously, we've talked about it in extensive detail, but Johnny, I would like to just read their schedule off to you really quick. And you tell me if this is not an ideal situation. We are home against New Mexico, tough game against Oklahoma. I'm saying tough, but I really don't think it is.
At Oklahoma.
Yeah, that one's at Oklahoma. We are at Nebraska. We are at USC. And then after that, I think that we could not easily, let me rephrase. I think we beat Michigan and go into Nebraska 4-0. We're sitting decent. Nebraska's obviously a tough team. USC will be a tough team. But then after that, we are home against Washington, at Michigan State, home against Purdue, at Northwestern, at Maryland, and then we have Ohio State at home.
I want to go on record.
Tell me if they can get through Oklahoma, that you're in the playoffs with 2 losses as a Big Ten, a blue blood in the Big Ten. You're in with 2 losses. That schedule screams 2 losses.
I agree. I just think they're too young. Like, I don't think they got that. I don't think they took that big of a jump compared to last year. I know they have a different quarterback, but we also got to remember Bryce Underwood's going to be a freshman. We saw Dylan Raiola, I think, is going to be a good quarterback this year, but we saw him struggle that first year playing in like in a Big Ten schedule as a freshman. That's hard.
But they're not asking him to do anything they'd ask Jackson Dart to do, right? They're still going to run the ball 26 to 32 times a game, probably have him throw it 16, maybe 17 times a game. They beat Alabama on 90 yards passing last year. So imagine if they get Bryce Underwood to 200.
Yeah, we'll see. Moving forward, what do you think about South Carolina?
I want to say that teams obviously can build on their previous year. I think this is one of the teams like I did last year with Mizzou a little bit, where I think that they're going to be a really good team. I think that they might be ranked a little bit high. Lenore Sellers obviously came to play late on in the year. They had a really tough year, started the year 2-3, had a really ugly loss against LSU, then got smoked by Ole Miss. Obviously finished the year out strong with a loss against Illinois that was truly a coin flip until the last 2.5 minutes. But I do think that they're going to be a really strong team. Shane Beamer's really got to do something this year. And by that I mean I think he's got to be in the run for the playoffs. But I don't think they get there. I think they drop 4 games.
Yeah, I really like this team. Dylan Stewart's such a beast on defense.
He'll be the number 1 overall next year.
I'm just a little scared about Lenore Sellers. I think he's a great quarterback, but like if you look at his stats, his first 6 games or his second 6 games, he took such a big step. I'm just really hoping we don't see a sophomore slump out of him. But I think he's really fun. They're kind of in the same boat as Florida with me. You could also put like Texas A&M in that boat too, where like I think they've got really good talent. I just don't think they can survive an SEC schedule yet.
No.
Okay, the next 2 teams.
You need experience to have those types of games that are truly coin flips. You need experience, and these second-year guys are not going to get it done. And that's why, like John Mateer, and John Mateer, he's at Louisville now. Miller Moss.
Oh, Miller Moss.
Allen, like these quarterbacks that have a really tough year, even 2 years underneath their belt, are going to be the key to wins. I think it's going to play more and more as the years go on with this format, as teams kind of, Johnny, we learned it in biostats. It's like the bell curve.
Yeah.
As teams kind of slowly come together, and they're both kind of interchangeable, right? Like you're going to look at Oklahoma and USC, South Carolina, almost in the same boat with like 4 losses, probably very similar games, very similar,
great team
possessions. Yeah, no, they're going to be good teams, but it's going to be one of those things where your 5th-year D lineman or your 4th-year linebacker captain is going to make all the difference. And I just hope some of these teams can hold on to these guys long enough to make a difference. You're very high on number 12, so I'm going to let you open the floor with them.
I have been high on 12, Illinois. I was high on them last year. Yep. They had a really tough loss at Oregon, and I was at the Penn State-Illinois game, and they played Penn State really tough. I think Brett Bielema is a good coach. I think Illinois is going to have the type of season Indiana had last year. Who knows what happens when they play that top-end talent in the Big Ten, like a Penn State or Ohio State or an Oregon. But I do think they make the playoff just because their schedule isn't too bad. And I really like Luke Altmaier, quarterback. I don't think he's going to throw for 5 billion yards, but he's gonna make passes. He's gonna convert third downs. He doesn't turn the ball over. I think he had like 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, if I remember from my research earlier today. But I just think he does everything you need him to. And I think Gabe Jukas is a really good linebacker that's going to lead that defense this season. I think they return the most starting production of anyone in the Big Ten. And Brett Bielema is a good coach. I just really think this team is going to have a really strong season.
I agree with you. They've had a couple of big injuries to some of their big recruits on the offensive line. I'm hoping they
Yeah.
can fulfill those. But I think that they're going to be a really talented team. Gritty, can run the ball, has really good defensive line.
Oh yeah.
Beverly has a really good defensive line in front seven. That will make a difference come late October and into November. We have Arizona State coming off a hell of a playoff run, a team that everyone wrote off and played probably the second, maybe third best game in the playoffs against Texas.
Sick. That was
awesome.
So good. Scataba, FCS guy, Sac State, baby.
Go.
Can they make up for his production? I know they have Sam Levitt back. I know they have Tyson, the receiver. He's going to be a stud this year. But I just don't know if they can replace the amount of just scrimmage yards Scataba.
Didn't he have 2,200 total scrimmage yards last year?
Like gross. Like something disgusting.
No, he had so many yards that he was low-key a dark horse in the Heisman finalist talks.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough. Like, you watch that Texas game, and you could say, yes, they're returning a lot of people. Their quarterback is Sam Levitt, right?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, no, he's a great quarterback. Young. He's a little bit young, but you look at, the assumption that he's going to take the next step, which is safe to say. But if you think about what they required to be in that game against Texas, what they needed out of Cam, you can't replace that. And I think for that reason, they're not going to compete in the Big 12 like they did last year. I think that they finish outside of the Big 12. But I think that we're going to see the Big 12 matchup on August 23rd.
Yeah, I know. Week 0. When's the last time we get a great Week 0 game? Number 10.
We don't.
Number 10. This is a team I have no idea about. Miami. I really think they got better this year. Like, I think Francis Magoa he could be the best interior lineman in college football. I guess you put Spencer Fano and him, the guy from Utah. Those got Jake Slaughter from Florida. Those top 3 interior linemen. You don't like Francis Magoa?
No, he's not a top 3. I think the kid from Clemson's the best.
Oh, yeah. And Penn State, Vega Alona is awesome. But
the kid from Clemson was an All-American as a freshman. They're saying he's like ungodly. I haven't watched his film all that much.
No, I'm talking about offensive. Are you talking
about excuse me, John.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. No, I meant offensive interior lineman. He's like a guard. He's a stud. They got obviously they lost Xavier Strapo, who's like their best receiver. They did get a couple guys in the portal, CJ Daniels and Tony Johnson, who are like they played a lot of ball. But it's all going to come down to Carson Beck. I really, really don't know. Carson Beck, we've joked about it this whole offseason. If Carson Beck didn't play last year, he would have been the number 1 pick in the draft. Him and Quinn Ewers. He hurt his stock playing. I really just don't know what Carson Beck we are going to see this year, and I think that's going to determine Miami's season.
Yeah, I'll never forget when I was watching Carson Beck all of September. There wasn't something sitting right, and I was just like, what is going on with him? And then at the end of September, he went into Denny Bryant and laid an egg in the first half, came back, almost won the game, threw an interception on the second to last play. And I was like, this is a tale of two cities. Like, who is this guy? Half of me says that this is a very talented Heisman caliber, top 5 pick quarterback. Then the other half, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. Like, he looks like a backup. He looks like a Maction type guy. And, I was not surprised he went to Miami. Obviously, he has a huge social following, who he dated and whatnot. But I don't know if he's certainly not an upgrade from Cam Ward.
No,
they had
an
ungodly defense last year in the sense of they were so bad. I think my Pop Warner team could have scored 40 on them. We ran the Bay City T for reference, Johnny.
So sick. That's awesome.
Where you fake it to the fullback, fake it to the halfback, give it to the tailback every single play.
Yeah.
Pull a guard, pull a tight end. It was dope.
Get the guys
but I don't, if they can improve on their defense, I think that they can be a force to reckon with, but I still don't think that they can make a push into the playoffs this year simply because of how the playoffs is getting set up. I think that this year might be a weird one where the ACC only gets 1.
Yeah, they just really hurt my head because, like I said, I really think this team got better besides quarterback, and quarterback's the most important position. Another team that I really don't know where to put them is LSU. They're next, right? I'm almost paused.
Yep.
Yes, LSU at 9. I don't trust Brian Kelly. Nuss, sometimes he looks awesome. Sometimes he looks bad. They got Nick Anderson, the wide receiver from Oklahoma. I think he's really good. I think this defense has the ability to be awesome this year. I think Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins, two guys that were hurt for a lot of last season, are unbelievable linebackers. I think this defense will get after the quarterback if they stay healthy. I just don't trust Brian Kelly to win the big one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that this is his best chance at competing for an
100%.
SEC championship.
Yeah.
But this is year 3 for LSU coaches. Like everyone, or excuse me, this is year 4, and
Yeah, I
everyone
think
knows
so.
what the whole LSU coaching tenure thing looked like,
You
right?
got to
Because
win.
Coach O won in his 3rd year. Nick Saban won in his 3rd year.
And then
Or
I
might
don't
be
know if it was Les Miles. I don't know what year Les Miles won, but the last 3 coaches all won national championships. That's the standard at LSU. I just
yeah,
don't know if Brian Kelly's going to bring you there. And they have the talented. I think they have the talent. Sorry, they're too talented not to make this playoffs. But I just don't know. Like Nuss is so talented. His arm,
yeah.
he's a freak. But just late in the season, they showed flashes of like they just look confused offensively.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I thought their defense took a huge step back last year. Not compared to 2 years ago when they had James Daniels, but they didn't
Yeah,
improve the way they wanted to.
yeah,
That's what I think it'll come down to. I think they need to be able to run the ball as well. They had one of the worst running attacks last year.
yeah.
Something that is very, very uncharted territory for Brian Kelly. It doesn't make sense how he's not able to develop any kind of run game. He needs to start developing those offensive linemen, but it is do or die. I don't know what their schedule looks like. Obviously, week 1, they open up at Clemson, right, Johnny?
Yeah, they open up with Clemson week 1. That's going to
At the
be
true, they're the real Death Valley, right?
I don't know. I've never really gone on either side of that debate at all. What's the true Death Valley?
No,
So that's going to be
I think that one's a funny one. Granted, I would rather not play at LSU
Oh
than to
yeah, I
play at
agree. I
nighttime
love
LSU when they've had too much beer and whatnot. Not a place
Oh
for
yeah.
me. Going into number 8, we have Alabama coming off a 9-4 year. No one was expecting an undefeated season, but when they beat Georgia, the way they beat Georgia, everyone had crazy high hopes, and then to immediately drop a bomb against Vanderbilt, and have this inconsistent up and down and up and down, lose to Tennessee, and then they obviously beat Georgia, and then they beat Mizzou. They beat the brakes off Mizzou 35-0, and then then they come back and they drop a game against Oklahoma, and then they lose to Michigan in the bowl game when they really didn't even have that many sit-outs.
Yeah. I have no idea what to think of this team.
No, I had no idea. They were highly penalized, something that's got to improve going into year 2. They just announced their starter is
Ty Simpson. Is it Ty Simpson?
Ty Simpson, who's a good pocket passer.
I think he's more what Kalen DeBoer wants. I think Jalen Miller didn't really fit his system. He wasn't as much of a thrower as like Michael Penix was the year before. I think Ty Simpson is more what Kalen DeBoer wants. Obviously, you have Ryan Williams. I think this defense is loaded. I think Overton is an awesome tackle. I'm trying to look at my notes here.
And
Sapp is a
Gator
great
Proctor,
safety.
don't they?
Yeah, they've got a great defense. And
Obviously,
I
they
think
have
that
Ryan
defense
Williams. Can't forget about him. He'll have 10
yeah,
touchdowns at least this year.
oh yeah. I just don't know about Bama this year. I think they have the talent offensively to get there. I just don't really know what the offense looks like with Ty Simpson and Kalen DeBoer. The offense down the stretch was so bad. That Oklahoma
So
game
bad. And they were in the
was
same boat
so
LSU.
bad.
They literally could not run the ball against Michigan
Yeah.
whatsoever. They had
So
one of the worst rushing games they've had in years against Michigan, and there's no surprise there. And that's one of the things I think Michigan's going to be so good. But they couldn't move the ball if their life depended on it, and it was embarrassing to watch.
Coming in
I'm
at
gonna bypass number 7 to you. Obviously, that is your team. Do they improve this year, or do they take a step back?
I don't know. The defense is awesome. The defense, I
Yeah.
think, is phenomenal. Mateo Uegelege, you've got Bryce Botticher, the two-sport dream right there, baseball and NFL guy. He's already drafted. He's going to be drafted in both sports. Already drafted in baseball. They got maybe the best I think okay, this is what I wrote down in my notes. I think if they get to the playoff and win a couple of games, I think you could say they have the best 3 transfers. Isaiah World is going to be an awesome left tackle at Nevada. Dylan Thieneman was an All-American safety at Purdue. He's going to be a rock star on that in that Oregon secondary. And then Mekhi Hughes is a quick guy from Tulane at running back. They pair him with a really experienced running back in Noah Whittington. I think the offense is going to just go as far as Dante Moore can bring them. DeCorion Moore could be the best freshman in the country at wide receiver. But, Dante Moore is a highly touted guy. He had that weird recruiting cycle where he was an Oregon guy, then on National Signing Day, flipped to UCLA to go play with Chip, and then he went back to Oregon. So I
He had a
really
pretty
don't
good
know.
season with Chip.
He did.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm looking for
Dan,
Oregon to improve. I think that they could improve. I think that their schedule is super unfavorable. I think going to Iowa in mid-October is going to be a lot harder than anyone is
that
talking about.
sucks. That sucks.
That's going to be absolutely brutal. And if they can get at you, like I think they can, that is a really cruddy game to go to. They also have to go to USC. USC is looking to rebound. And I think that USC is a team that people are sleeping on, obviously not even in the AP top 25, but, a team that I would not want to play. I'm nervous for Notre Dame to play them. If I was Oregon, I would be nervous to play them because Lincoln Riley's in the same boat. And we're going to talk about him in about 15 minutes. But, I would expect Oregon to be like many of the teams where I think they're going to improve overall, but they might drop a game more than they did last year.
They have the talent defensively just to really shut teams out. And it comes down to Dante Moore. Evan Stewart was their best returning receiver. He's out for the season. I think he's tore his Achilles. That's a huge blow for a young quarterback. So I think that kind of hinders them. But, they're great at tight end with Kenyon Sadiq. So I think they're going to be a good team. The Big Ten is just so tough this year. Like, we still have two more teams we got to talk about in the Big Ten. So I think it's going to be a hard season. But I do think they're a playoff lock. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to –
Wow, you're throwing the L word around.
I do. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're just
two other teams ahead of them.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten gets 3 in. I think the Big Ten could get 4 in this year.
Oh, I for sure think they get 4 in.
Yeah.
I don't know if Oregon's one of them, but I think that's tough. Moving on to number 6, obviously my team runners up last year.
Take it away.
Outperformed. What'd you say?
So take it away.
Oh, I thought you were saying wave the white flag or something. I was about to be like, where are you coming from with that?
No, I'm saying take it away.
So Notre Dame, I think that they are going to improve this year. Pass game will be even better than it was last year. I think that, CJ Carr will be named the starting quarterback very, very soon. They got a couple talented wide receivers. Obviously, the backfield comes with Jeremiah Lev and Jadarian Price, 2 Heisman candidates if they would both be number 1 players on any other team in this AP top 25 list. Both really, really talented. Their defense, their only question marks are their 2 corners in their safety. Xavier Watts obviously got drafted. There's a couple others I'm drawing a blank on their names, but they did get drafted. So they have young kids, but Notre Dame is starting to have a process in place where kids can fill in gaps. We got to get through September, and I think our schedule is incredibly easy. But we got a tough one going down to Miami and then hosting A&M. Hosting A&M is not a concern. Going down to Miami in that heat in Labor Day weekend, that's a tough one for a young quarterback in a nighttime game.
The only thing, I think Notre Dame's going to be awesome this year. Like, you already have one stud corner in Leonard Moore. I just think what I wanted to ask you about is Malachi Fields is the big name out of Virginia. They got a wide receiver. He's going to join Faison and Greathouse. He's the other guy.
Greathouse,
yeah. I just think that what Riley Leonard could do with his feet was kind of the straw that stirred the drink. Like, I think that allowed them to get away with some subpar wide receiver play. I think Malachi Fields needs to have a great season, or Faison and Greathouse have to step up just to take the pressure off Jeremiah Love in the run game. Because I think
we saw a better pass game come the playoffs than we did all year.
Yeah,
like there was times. Georgia, for instance, I don't think we had any passing yards whatsoever, but Penn State, we had a lot better of a pass game, and then Ohio State, it was even better than that. So I do expect some improvement there. I think CJ Carr is a good pocket passer. I was very surprised that he was going to be listed as the starter. I thought it was going to be Steve Minchie. But I trust in what Marcus Freeman is doing. I am excited to see what they can do in the pass game. And I think that, like I said, if we can get through September, we are going to have a decent schedule, and we might honestly see an undefeated season.
I don't think that. Yeah, I think the schedule's there to go undefeated. Like, I don't think it's a hard schedule at all. As I'm saying, I really think that teams are going to stack the box against Jeremiah Love. So you need those receivers need to pan out this season for Notre Dame.
But besides your friends in blue and white, they're saying Notre Dame might have the best offensive line in college football.
Yeah, they always have great offensive line. Notre Dame always produces top end
You
talent.
know, they kept almost all of their starters and backups from last year. They had a couple of third strings transfer out, but they're returning a lot of really good talent. They're just producing linemen. They always have, but I heard through the reports that I'm reading, there's a quarterback, not AJ McCarron. It was similar year, but he was talking about how good the offensive line is,
Yeah,
running double tights. It'll be really, really tough to stack the box against them, but we'll keep moving forward. Number 5, we have a team that lost to Notre Dame in the quarterfinals, Georgia. John Stockton's going to take the reins on this one. They need to
Gunner.
have better offensive production across the board. Just like every other SEC team, they could not run the ball, even though they had a really talented running back. Need wide receiver play. They had more drops than any other team in college football last year, which is an outstanding stat. But it's the God's honest truth. And if they want to improve, which they will, I think they still have what it takes, great recruiting class and whatnot. They will need to have a better pass game this year.
Yeah, Georgia, they're really just going to go as far as Gunner Stockton will take him because I think that defense, Kirby just
Did I say John
reloads.
Stockton?
You said John Stockton. That's
Who
awesome.
is John Stockton?
Hall of Fame point guard for the Utah
That's who it
Jazz.
is.
Him and
Okay.
Karl
I
Malone.
was like, the
We
name
got
sounds familiar. That's funny.
we
Thank you
got to
for
make
not making that me there.
no. We got to make John Stockton Gunner Stockton shirts now. That would be so sick. But yeah. I think he's really gonna determine how far this team goes. Kirby just
Yeah.
knows how to coach defense. Like that defense
Yeah, that,
will.
that front seven's going to be
And then
ridiculous.
is it Nate Frazier, the running back? He's a stud. They're going to be able to run the ball. You're right. It's just wide receiver. Did they add enough? And we'll see. I don't know.
They had the hardest road schedule of recent memory last year. And if it's anything even comparable to that this year, they will struggle once again on the road as they did last year. But I'm expecting to see more improvements. And that was the most down year we've had with Georgia in probably 5 years.
Yeah.
And, I'm just expecting them to increase their production offensively. I think that they're going to make a run. I think that they match up well with the number 1 team in the AP poll. We'll see that, I think it's October 18th range. But like moving on to number 4, we have our ACC predicting champion, Clemson.
I can take it away if you want. I really like the Clemson team. The guy you were talking about earlier, Peter Woods and TJ Parker, both D linemen, studs, probably both All-Americans, and Averion Terrell is a really good cornerback. I think he's going to be a freshman this year.
He could be a top 10 player in the college football scene.
Yeah.
The corner. He's legit.
No, he's awesome. And then, you got Cade back. I think what they need this year, which they haven't got in years past, is production out of that wide receiver core. Back in the day when Clemson was really winning, they had guys like Sammy Watkins, they had T. Higgins, they had just studs that could stretch the field. And they haven't been able to do that. Like Cade averaged, I think, like 11 yards a pass last year. That's a little short compared to the past CFB winners at the end of the season. I think they're really going to need to improve on their big playability. They've got a freshman running back, Gideon Davidson, who's predicted to be really good. They're going to need him to play well. These past couple of Clemson teams have really just relied heavily on their running back. So I think they're going to need him to be a superstar this year. And I think K just needs to take that next step if they're going and just win games.
We're going to see an unbelievable matchup week 1. Nuss and Cade. And I think that'll truly tell us, how good Clemson is, because it's funny. That's what that week 0 does. And we'll talk about week 0 and week one in the next couple of weeks and how much you and I disagree about it. But a matchup like that truly is a good indicator of what we are going to see out of both of those teams. But I think Clemson comes on top. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks, but I think Clemson is a very, very talented team. It's funny.
They're awesome.
Turnaround that has happened in 5 years with Clemson from they are the new Alabama Kirby, or Jesus. Dabo is the new Nick Saban. He is a joke who yells at students on the radio. To they're likely to win the ACC. Very well could see them in the national championship. And if you told people that you think they're going to win the national championship, no one's even laughing at you.
No.
2 years ago, people were ready to burn down his coach's office.
No, he's developed a ton of talent, especially that defensive side of the ball. Moving on, what do you think about Ohio State this year?
you obviously can't say that they're going to improve. I think they're going to be
No.
another really, really solid team. Julian Sayin is a 5-star quarterback. He was praised as the great one coming into college. Obviously, got some time to sit back and get mentored. Bringing back obviously some really good studs. Caleb Downs returning for his third year in college football,
Yeah.
probably one of the best safeties in college.
Yeah.
One of the best defensive players in college.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have the wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. It's Brian Hartline taking the ropes as OC is not concerning whatsoever in terms of offensive production. I think they might even improve early on in the year. They have a harder schedule than they did last year. Obviously Ryan Day cooled off his seat a little bit, obviously with the national championship. But that's another thing that was silly is that people were, had pitchforks outside of the stadium last year, and then 5 weeks later we were handing him a national trophy. So it's tough to say. I think that they have a really talented, offense. Without that goes without saying. I think their offensive line is going to be returning and going to be impressive. They play a harder schedule this year, but I think they're going to take the runner-up position in the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, I think this team's awesome. Especially defensively, like Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles, the linebacker, are both just two like probably top 25 guys in college football this year defensively. I just really think, yeah, it's all going to come down to Julian saying like they got Max Player, that tight end out of Purdue. He's a stud. I think though where they're going to struggle is running the ball. I think they graduated a couple like their left tackle and their left guard, but they lost Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Those are both guys that, Quinshon Judkins a lot of trouble right now, but those are two guys that were drafted extremely high in the draft. And I think that really bailed out Will Howard. It's just having such a solid run game. Even when he got in trouble, dump getting the flat to Judkins. And they're really going to need to get production out of Peoples and Donaldson, the two running backs replaced them this year. Donaldson out of West Virginia transfer. So we'll see how that goes. Defensively, I'm really interested to see how the Matt Patricia era starts. Hasn't coached college in about 20 years. We'll see how it goes. But, there's a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball. But, they have the talent to replace it. Ryan Day's a great, great coach. So we'll really see.
Yeah, no, I think that the whole Julian Sayin thing, I think he is in the best position out of all like the new up and coming college football stars. He's going to be throwing to wide receivers are going to be 2 steps ahead of their corners, obviously in Jeremiah Smith. But who is the kid who had a really good game against Tennessee, Johnny?
Carnell Tate.
Carnell Tate. Another really, really talented guy. Not the number 1 guy, probably not even the number 2 guy in most situations, but he's a really, really talented wide receiver. I think that he has one of the best positions to be successful. I don't think they're going to put him in uncomfortable situations, but they avoid Penn State, correct?
No, they playing in Ohio State. They're doing a blackout.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
Penn State, side note, Penn State, I know we're going to talk about them in a second, played one of the worst games against Ohio State I've ever seen last year.
Dude, it was like 20, like what was this? It was like a close game.
Oh, it's incredibly close. They brought it down to the 1 yard line twice. Couldn't score twice.
Yeah. One of that pick though, that was kind of BS. But I don't know. Do you want to move on to Penn State?
Going to number 2, Penn State. Johnny, I'm not even going to talk about them. I think that they're going to be a hell of a team, returning crazy amounts of talent, recruiting really, really good coaches. Andy Cole, Nicky, you could talk about him more than I can. Returning Jim Knowles, coming from Ohio State, getting paid $3.5 million a year with incentives up to $5.5 million. They're the team to beat in college football, in my opinion. Obviously, the AP poll ranks them as 2. I don't really get that.
I think this is the best team in college football. I think they have the best offensive line in college football. They've returned 4 of the 5 starters. Vega Iona is going to be an All-American this year, and then Nick Dawkins is incredible center, quarterback in that offensive line. Best running back tandem in college football, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, both have the ability to be All-Americans, both rushed for over 1,000 yards. And then everyone wants to say that their passing game sucked last year besides Tyler Warren. They went out, they got big-name guys. Devontae Ross, I know he's a Troy guy out of a small school, still 10 touchdowns, 1,000 receiving yards. And then Traber Pena was, I think, the most slept-on receiver in the ACC last year. Awesome at Syracuse. Awesome returner, which not enough people talk about. I think he's going to be a real spark plug. He's kind of a possession wide receiver. Deep threats like Kyron Hudson, who they got out of USC, doesn't get open. You just see his security blanket, Trevor Pena, underneath. I think that's really going to make a difference. And then at tight end, Khalil Dinkins and Luke Reynolds are really good. But then defensively, Zane Durant could be one of the best interior linemen. I know not the best. I know there's some studs out there, especially Peter Woods at Clemson. But Zane Durant's awesome. Denai Dennis Sutton's awesome. The linebackers they got better getting UNC Amari Campbell, he transferred in, and then the secondary is just a ton of veterans. Zion Tracy, Zakiya Wheatley, AJ Harris has the ability to be the best cornerback in college football. I just think this team is so talented. They're kind of doing the model that Michigan did 2 years ago, Ohio State did last year, where they're just bringing everyone back, one go at it right
Clemson
now.
did it in 2018.
Yeah, bringing Jim Knowles in.
Bama did it the year later.
Jim Knowles, I think, is the best defensive mind in college football. And then Andy Koltnicki is awesome. Him returning is really going to help Drew Aller. And, I can't say enough about this team. I think they're going to win the national championship. That's what all I have to say.
I don't get why they weren't ranked 1. I think they are the team to beat. People talking about this year being one of the most open years that I've ever seen. And I see the blueprint, and I see who's going to be in the Natty. It's going to be Clemson, Penn State, which is a really, really cool matchup if you take a step back.
It'd be awesome.
I would not be surprised if either of those teams made an undefeated run. I think Penn State does have a tough schedule, though. Just like Oregon, they head to Iowa in late October.
Yeah, no, they have a tough schedule. They got to play Ohio State. They got to play Oregon. They got to play Indiana. It's going to be tough, but I think Drew Aller has played so much college football. And I think that's the same with a lot of guys on that team. Tony Roja played a ton of college football, middle linebacker. Dominic DeLuca, walk-on. We don't see walk-ons anymore now with the new rules. He rocks. I think this team is going to be a lot of fun.
Kirby and holy cow, it's past my bedtime. Coach of Ole Miss.
Lane Kiffin.
What they came out and said about walk-ons, how they would sponsor them themselves. So basically, there was talks about eliminating walk-ons from teams in these major programs, and they were like, walk-ons are the heart and soul of teams. Like, we will gladly finance them out of our own programs to keep them alive and well in college football, because I guess the NCAA was trying to go around them to eliminate some of the fluff within the team. But going on to number 1, Johnny, we have Texas. Obviously the star of Texas is Archie Manning. I think he's legit. I hate the argument of, if he was so legit, why didn't he start last year? I just don't think it's valid. I think what he showed last year in how dynamic the offense can be around him will be impressive. I don't know that much about Texas in terms of their personnel. I know that they obviously reload with 5 stars left and right. Could not win a big game last year. That was the name of the game. Could not beat, Georgia. And then obviously kind of laid an egg against Ohio State when they had them against the ropes. But, they are the AP number 1 going against Ohio State in Ohio State week 1, Saturday night. It's going to be a hell of a game.
It's going to be awesome. I think that's going to be a tough game for Arch. And I think Arch is going to be a good quarterback this year. I just think it's an uphill battle for him, because that SEC schedule is such a gauntlet, and he can't take time to grow up. He has to grow up fast, especially that first game on the road. I do think the defense will bail him out. I think Colin Simons, Anthony Hill Jr., and Michael Taffy are probably the biggest big 3 defensively in college football. All 3 of those guys could be All-Americans this year. The defense is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
That being said, it's all going to come down to that offense. Big playability. Can Sark get it done? They just couldn't score enough.
Big playability is a really good thing to bring up, because they have been lacking their big playability for a very long time, and Quinn just at times just didn't have it. He would go non-existent in some of the biggest moments, and that's kind of when you need some of the biggest plays. And when they beat Bama in Bama about 2 years ago, he had nothing but big plays, and I was blown away, saying, no wonder he's going to be the number 1 overall. And then he drops to the 6 because all he did was checkdowns 24/7, and it was sad to see. But I think Texas is ready to take that next step. I think everyone's expecting them to take the next step. Like you said, it just simply comes down to Archie. Can he perform? Yeah. Can he throw? If he performs well, he's going to be a shoo-in for the Heisman without a doubt in my mind, just because he's such a name brand. But it'll be a good season for Texas.
Okay, moving on. Buy, sell teams for the season. You want to start us off? You give us. You go.
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
I was going to jump right in.
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
It's tough because a lot of the teams that we're buying and selling that are teams that we already talked about in the AP top.
Yes, we just go quickly over them.
Yeah, so a couple teams that I'm obviously buying in on. I'm buying in on the Big 12 a little bit. I think teams that are going to take a really big step. Obviously, we talked about Iowa State, and then we talked about Texas Tech. I think they're 2 teams, that are going to be a lot better than most people think. That is a team that I'm going to be buying in on. I am also buying in on Georgia Tech. They're going to be
Love
building off
that.
a really impressive year. Better
Love
than
the
they've
coach.
ever had before. They're going to really mess up some seasons this year. And then I got to buy in on Notre Dame. I think that they're building quite a program up in South Bend. I know that's a really cop out answer, but I do think that this team is not your grandfather's Notre Dame, and I think that's the best way to describe them. As we're finally getting a little bit of culture into that team, modern day culture, and I think that we can really make a run again deep into the playoffs. A couple of teams that I am selling personally, Oklahoma. I just don't think that they got what it takes to produce any kind of steam within the SEC. I think that their offensive line was just not good enough. Their offensive identity was not good enough. I don't think John Mateer I thought he was good at Washington State, and I like the OC. I don't love the combo enough to write them in as a threat in the SEC. Another team that I'm buying in on, USC. I think they recruited at a really, really high level. I think that's another team where they could very well. It's a coin flip. They're going to go 10-2 or they're going to go 7-5. It is truly a coin flip. Last year they lost 5 games by 1 possession. I think that they could ruin seasons. One of my dark horses to make the playoffs is USC. Johnny, any thoughts on any of those teams, or do you want to jump into right of your examples?
No, I think you made some really strong points there. Some of mine are going to overlap, so I can just hop into mine. I got 3 teams I'm buying in on. First, Illinois. I spoke very highly of them
Yeah.
earlier. I just think Luke Altmaier, as I said, does everything you need out of a winner. 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 7 picks last year. They only play Indiana and Ohio State out of like that top end Big Ten talent. I think they beat Indiana. I don't know if they beat Ohio State, but I think that's enough to get them in the playoff. Next,
Can't lay an
Texas
egg
Tech.
like they did against Oregon.
No, they can't. Absolutely not. And I think, they're a little older. They returned like everyone. So I don't think they will.
That game seemed like a dud.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Moving on, Texas Tech. I'm buying all the Texas Tech stock. I think they're awesome. Bay and Morton's back at quarterback. They got better at wide receiver. They got all of that oil money. They got really good on the defensive side of the ball.
$25 million a year.
Yeah, they brought in like 2 defensive tackles that are great. David Bailey out of Stanford and Lee Hunter out of UCF, and then Jake Rodriguez at linebacker has the ability to win Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I think they're going to be awesome, and I think they're going to make the playoff. And then finally, this one is kind of a hot take. I like SMU just because I think Kevin Jennings is a winner, and I don't think the ACC is going to be that good this year. And I think they could dark horse make it in just because I think Kevin Jennings, all he does is win games. And I think, he looked bad against Penn State last year. Really, but I think that's a big lesson he learned. And I think we said it all day, all podcasts. It takes losing to win. Like it takes a lot to get these quarterbacks in a position to win games this year. And I think he took a lot of punches last year. I think he's going to come back. And I love their coach, Rhett Lashley. And then I'm selling all my Indiana stock. I do love Fernando Mendoza. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's played some really good college football in his career. I just don't think they're talented enough to make it out of the Big Ten this year. I'm also selling. And then this last group I have is just SEC teams with great quarterbacks, but I don't think they're good enough to make the playoff. And that's South Carolina, Florida, Texas A&M. I love Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway, and Marcel Reed. I just don't think top to bottom these teams are good enough to survive an SEC schedule.
Marcel Reed was so inconsistent. There was times where I thought he was still in the locker room.
So fun to watch, but but you're right. We'll just lay an egg. But
there's times where I was like, Jesus Christ, like where is this offense? But no, I think you're spot on the teams that you're selling. The SEC is truly going to get alive within itself, and it's going to come down to experience. And if one of those teams comes out victorious in just a handful of those games, they're going to have a Heisman winner.
Oh yeah,
but
100%.
I don't think it's possible.
Okay, hot seat. I got a couple hot takes. No, I don't think mine are too hot. They're big names, but I don't think they're too hot. Do you want me to start this time?
Yeah. Because I'm assuming you and I will have very similar ones. I think we both agree. Sam Pittman, obviously on the hot seat. I think he's the hottest of the hot seats. Billy Napier down in Florida, obviously a hot seat. But who do you have that's a little bit, a little bit in the shadows?
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I do think Luke Fickell's on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah.
I think going 7-6 and then 5-7. I just think he's in the hot seat because the Big Ten's getting better. The Big Ten, you see these teams like Illinois and Indiana ascending. And in order to ascend, you got to kick a couple other teams down the mountaintop. And I think Nebraska and Wisconsin are kind of in a boat where, like, if they don't step up this year, I don't know where they're going to fit in the Big Ten. Like, the Big Ten only got hard adding Oregon and USC. And, like, I move on to Lincoln Riley. I think he's also on the hot seat because this Big Ten
Too
is
much
just,
investment in Lincoln Riley, Johnny.
I don't know. I just think the Big Ten is getting better. And these teams like Wisconsin, USC are teams that have had, like, the last 20 years have been huge, huge, huge teams. And I just think, when we see other teams get better, other teams got to be kicked down. And I think
I got to argue with you a little bit on this one. I think you're spot on with Wisconsin. I think one of the reasons that Luke Fickell is such on the hot seat is that he has no offensive identity, right? Back in the 2010s with Taylor, who's the running back? He's on the Colts.
Jonathan Taylor,
Taylor. When he was running 300-400 yards a game, it was absolutely absurd. And now they have no offensive ability. They have no run game. They're not developing offensive linemen the way they used to. It's a foolish mistake to try to develop into a wide receiver, central offensive scheme type, because they're not going to be recruiting at a high level up into Wisconsin. So you got to develop the run game. But, I think that USC is taking all the right steps, and they do not seem directionalist, if that makes any sense, right? They take the GM, drawing a blank on his name like I do everyone, drawing a blank on the GM's name coming from Notre Dame. They have the number one recruiting class as of today for 2026 for college, or for, high school recruits. I think that USC is investing in their people, investing in their team. I really think that they're sticking by Lincoln Riley and they like what they're seeing. It's tough when he, obviously dropped a decent chunk of games last year, but if you rewatch him, he was beating Penn State. He was beating Minnesota. But he's beating a lot of teams, and then, they just kind of dropped him. And, obviously it's sad to see that, Miller Moss went his way to Louisville. Side note, dark horse to make the playoffs. Louisville could make a run. Miller Moss, he's a really talented quarterback. But I like what USC is doing, and I'm kind of standing by Lincoln Riley. You know me. I'm a roller coaster on Lincoln Riley. Right now I'm on the high of him, and I think I might be by my lonesome.
I just think going 11-3, 8-5, 7-6, they need this season. That's why I think he's on the hot seat. They need to make a step in the other direction. Like, they've been going downhill. They need to flip the switch this year. Moving on,
I think got to assume, though, he's got to have a little bit of salesmanship in his program, though, in the sense of he was in the Big 12, or the Pac-12 when he won 11 games and was a quarter away from making the playoffs as a first-year coach at USC, and now he's in the Big 10 and he's still stirring up some problems there. I think that if he has a positive season today, he is lesser of a hot seat than anyone.
Yeah. Winning solves everything. I'll say that till the horses come
any
home.
Warm seats? Do you have any that are warm seats?
I think.
Ooh, I don't know.
Well, I think Brett Venables. I just think the SEC is such a gauntlet. Oklahoma, like, the past 10 years, has made the playoff. They've had Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. I don't think that fan base likes to. Well, I know they don't like to lose. No one likes to lose. I'm just saying, I don't know how long they're going to put up with going 500. Like, he's gone 6-7, 10-3, 6-7. That's got to change.
He's one of the guys that I think that he's just a better defensive coordinator and a better defensive coach, and he just can't generate the type of offense. I think you're spot on that. His seat has got to be warming up. In the middle of the year last year, they signed him, I think, on another 4-year deal. I wouldn't be surprised if they started looking at buyouts. You know who I'm very surprised you didn't say, Johnny?
Wait, I've got Hugh Freeze. Yeah,
they've been incredibly patient. Auburn's a tough place to win. It's a tough place to win consistently. You know me. I don't like Hugh Freeze. I don't like him at all.
I don't like Hugh Freeze at all.
And I think he sells snake potions. And, I'm very surprised that they've even waited this long. Auburn's a tough place. Right now we're in this weird position of, like, who else would you pick? That John Gruden article that came out today, very interesting, though. Very interesting.
But I'll put that on the agenda. I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
This is a guy, he went right.
Let me summarize that article really quick, though. He says he wants to coach in the SEC.
Oh, that would be so sick. That would be
so sick.
So awesome. Dude, I love personalities. That's why I like Hugh Freeze. I think he's a scumbag. But I like him in the SEC just because, like, I want diva coaches like Lane Kiffin, like that type of deal.
Some brats.
Okay. Florida State, Mike Norvell went 3-6, 5-7, 10-3, 13-1, 2-10. How warm is his seat?
I listened to Josh Pete's end of the year conversation with him, and he was saying the way that the university, the way that the field house the team feels around him is rallying almost as if they have a national championship run underneath their belt, in the sense of they're ready to go. They're ready for a natty. If they didn't fire him last year, my assumption would be that they're not that sick of him.
Have you heard his quarterback, the guy from BC, what's his name? Thomas Castellanos.
Yeah.
He's talking so much smack about that game, that first week 1 against Bama. Like, that's going to show us, like, is Florida State legit or not?
He was a good quarterback, and under Billy O'Brien, like, he had some really, really good stats. I didn't realize he transferred to FSU.
Yeah, I know. But
he's been
saying, I had no talent at BC. I've got the talent now. Who's Bama? I'm coming after that defense. It's going to be exciting.
Remember USC did the same thing and then lost 52-6?
I remember that. High school.
That was crazy.
Whoa. Yeah,
that was tough to watch.
Big oof. But I don't know. Mike Norvell's a weird one because, like, 2 years ago he was going to be in the college. He got, like, gypped out of the college football playoff. This year we'll really, really see. I don't know. After going 2-10, Florida State's obviously big time boosters there. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's any seat that's, like, truly burning like it was last year. I think that things. I think we'll get to Columbus Day weekend with all coaches still around. Obviously Baylor ended the year 6-0, won the last 6. That cooled off Arianda's hot seat, a decent shot. They're expecting a pretty good year. Tough game against Baylor week 1, against Auburn week 1. But yeah, no, I really don't think the hot seat conversation is as potent this year as it has been in the past.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. But it's going to be exciting, Johnny. I'm very surprised by the AP top 25 in part of me. And then the other half says it goes exactly how I thought it would. A popularity contest, a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Like we talked about, I think Penn State is the team to beat, and if they end the year undefeated, the regular season undefeated, they will be, a scary team entering the playoffs, a team that could be legendary. I think you guys got yourself a good one. I just hope they don't see the Irish again.
We'll see. It's good for the podcast. Yeah. People love the pain. I'm excited for the season. I'm jacked up. Week 0 is going to rock. Big game. Iowa State, Kansas State. We'll talk more about that next week. But, just very excited for the season, Patch.
Yeah, Johnny. So just to give our listeners, those that are still with us here a little bit, we will be continuing our Cheesecake Factory bet. Someone in this podcast still owes another person dinner. I can't remember who owes who. So I guess it's just a wash.
I can remember.
If there's proof anywhere, but we will continue to do that. We are going to have some parlays going into this upcoming week of teams that we like. Entering the playoffs, parlay. We're going to have a bunch of, like I said early on in the podcast, we're going to have a bunch of graphics. We're going to have some highlights. We're going to have some really cool stuff. We will be filming Sunday nights, posting Monday morning, if latest Tuesday morning. It's going to be a really fun season 2.
Get some guest pickers on.
Guest pickers. That's a surprise. Awesome.
Okay, Pat.
Well, Johnny, great seeing you. I hope you had a good year, and I hope you're ready to buckle down.
Oh, I'm excited.
All right. See ya, dude.
See ya.